Ifunanya was a simple village girl, humble and hardworking. She worked as a salesgirl in a beer parlor not far from where Ugochukwu lived. That day, she was at the market buying vegetables and fish to take back to her father's house. As she moved from one stall to the next, she felt a gaze on her, and when she looked up, there he was, Ugochukwu, tall and striking, his eyes lingering on her for a moment longer than expected. Their eyes met, and something clicked in that instant. It wasn't love at first sight, no, but there was a connection, a spark that neither of them could deny. Ugochukwu approached her with a shy smile, and before long, they were laughing and talking as if they had known each other for years. They spent the rest of the market day together, buying what they needed and enjoying each other's company. From that moment on, Ifunanya's life changed. She had fallen in love, and she was sure Ugochukwu was the man of her dreams. They began dating, and in just 6 short months, their relationship had grown deeper than she ever imagined. But there was a problem. Ugochukwu was financially down. He had no job, no money, no clear way of providing for a future. But Ifunanya didn't care. She loved him with all her heart. She visited him regularly after work, bringing him food and making sure he was comfortable. To her, love was enough. One day, while Ifunanya was at work, she began to feel strange, a wave of nausea that made her dizzy. She couldn't quite understand what was happening until it hit her. She might be pregnant. Without wasting any time, she went to the nearest pharmacy to buy a pregnancy test. Her hand shook as she waited for the results, and when the 2 lines appeared on the test, confirming her suspicions, her heart raced with excitement. She hurriedly ran to Ugochukwu's house, eager to share the news with him. Her mind was filled with visions of their future together, a happy family raising their child in love. When she got to his house, she burst through the door, almost out of breath. "Ugochukwu," she called out, her voice trembling with emotion. "I'm pregnant." His reaction was everything she hoped for. Ugochukwu's face lit up with joy. He pulled her into his arms, and they rejoiced together, celebrating the life growing inside her. In that moment, Ugochukwu promised her something that made her heart swell with happiness. "I'll pay your bride price, Ifunanya. I'll come to your father's house and make you my wife." Ifunanya believed him. She trusted him. And for a while, everything seemed perfect. But as the months passed, things began to change. The first month after her pregnancy passed, and there was no word about the bride price. Then the second month came and went. By the 3rd month, her pregnancy was beginning to show, and yet there was still no sign of Ugochukwu fulfilling his promise. She tried to be understanding. Ugochukwu had started learning a trade, trying to establish a business that would eventually bring in money. He kept telling her, "Soon, my love, soon." But as the weeks dragged on, Ifunanya began to worry. Whenever she brought up the topic of the bride price, Ugochukwu always had an excuse. He was broke. He needed more time. He just wasn't ready yet. Ifunanya, now deeply in love and desperate for their relationship to move forward, decided to take matters into her own hands. One evening, after a long conversation with Ugochukwu about their future, she made a decision that would haunt her for the rest of her life. "I'll pay it," she said softly. "I'll give you the money for my bride price." At first, Ugochukwu seemed hesitant, but after some thought, he agreed. Ifunanya handed him the money, and with it, he went to her father's house to pay the bride price, officially making her his wife. For a brief moment, Ifunanya thought she had done the right thing. She had secured her future with the man she loved, and soon after, she moved out of her father's house and into Ugochukwu's home. She gave birth to their baby the following month, and her heart was filled with joy. But that joy was short-lived. From the moment she moved into Ugochukwu's house, things began to change. Ugochukwu, who had once been loving and attentive, became distant and cold. He barely spoke to her, and when he did, it was only to criticize or belittle her. The man who once promised her a future filled with love had now become a stranger, a shadow of the person she thought she knew. And it didn't stop there. Ugochukwu's behavior grew worse by the day. He began to maltreat her, sometimes even in front of their baby. He would shout at her for the smallest mistakes, call her names, and at times raise his hand to her. Ifunanya, who had once believed that love would conquer all, now found herself living in a nightmare she couldn't escape. As Ugochukwu's business began to flourish, he became even more arrogant. He had started making good money, but instead of using it to build a better life for his family, he used it to pursue other women. Ifunanya soon discovered that Ugochukwu had been secretly crushing on a girl in the village named Ezine, a woman he had admired for a long time but couldn't pursue when he was broke. Now that he was rich, he wasted no time going after her. Before long, Ezine moved into their home, and Ifunanya was relegated to a small room downstairs. Her once promising future had crumbled, and she found herself trapped in a loveless marriage. A prisoner in the home she had once dreamed of sharing with Ugochukwu. But the worst part wasn't just the emotional abuse. It was the way Ugochukwu and Ezine treated her. They made her life unbearable. Ifunanya was forced to wake up as early as 5 a.m. every morning to clean the house, wash Ezine's clothes, and even scrub Ugochukwu's car. If she dared to miss a single task, she and her baby would go without food for the day. Every day, Ifunanya's heart broke a little more. She cried herself to sleep at night, wondering how she had ended up in this situation. Her friend, Neoma, begged her to leave. "Go back to your father's house," Neoma would say. "You don't deserve this." But Ifunanya couldn't bring herself to leave. She made excuses, telling herself that she still loved Ugochukwu, that maybe one day he would change. But deep down, she knew the truth. She had made a terrible mistake. She had sacrificed everything for love, and now she was paying the price. For 2 years, Ifunanya endured the abuse. And when Ezine joined them, it only got worse. Ezine took pleasure in making Ifunanya's life miserable, constantly reminding her that she was no longer important in Ugochukwu's life. Ifunanya's heart was heavy with regret. She wished she had never given Ugochukwu the money to pay her bride price. She wished she had never fallen in love with him in the first place. But wishes couldn't change the past. She was stuck, living a life filled with pain and heartbreak. Every day she asked herself, is this the price of love? And so her story continues as she faces an uncertain future, trapped in a loveless marriage with no escape in sight.
To be continued. Like and subscribe for more stories.